Hi there, my name is Richard. I'm the CEO of Released, and today we're going to have a quick demo, quick walkthrough of Released. We're going to talk about firstly what it is. We're going to have a look at an example report or two, and then we're going to show how easy it is to create these really visual reports. So in terms of what Released is, basically it's the only tool that's been designed to showcase the activity that PRs do, plus the coverage that's generated, and evidence in the form of analytics that it's actually made an impact, all in one visual, easy to digest place. So with that said, let's have a look at a couple of example reports. The first thing we'll look at is much farther on the simpler end of things. So as we'll see later, our users have full control over the layout of reports, the branding, and of course the content. So this would be an example of a very simple PR report in which you might choose to have things like an introduction, some key metrics around total pieces of coverage, reach, coverage level views and social engagements. You might also feature online coverage as well. And again, we'll look at how to generate this later. And social posts. So that's on the simpler side of things. But what I'm going to show you now is a all singing, all dancing PR campaign report. So this really shows what you can do with the tool. This is purely a showcase page, something we created ourselves, but hopefully give you an idea of what's possible. So in this example report, we have an introduction, an overview, a summary of the activity that's taken place. Again, total coverage numbers, but also custom metrics, for example, dates, awards, coverage pipeline, anything you like can be created here. Here, we've got an example of supporting content that's been produced and managed. You might have an embedded press release, a report, research, or white paper. You can also include video content and images. For example, if you've done a media event or product launch, again, it just shows that there's more to PR than coverage. Talking of coverage, let's now have a look at online coverage. So all of this content and all of these metrics I'm about to show you was simply generated from copying links to your clipboard from a spreadsheet, for example, or your media monitoring solution, and pasting them into a box. And again, I'll show you that in a moment. Just from doing that, it grabs all of the coverage. For example, the publication name, headline, the date, summary, and an image, all of which you can change and control, and all of these metrics. So for each publication, we have the monthly visitors, the total reach, domain authority, popularity trend, and average visit duration. We've also got coverage level views and whether those views were achieved on the website or if the coverage has been shared, people scrolling through their social feeds. And indeed, if it has been shared, where has it been shared to? What's happening on those platforms? Again, all automatically generated in literally a few seconds. And obviously you can total up those figures too. And another popular feature is if you spot great highlights buried in a piece of coverage, you can kind of essentially spoon feed them to your clients or stakeholders. Really useful as these reports go up the chain and people have less of an understanding of PR. Now, what I'm about to talk about here is all optional. So this really speaks to PR's need to provide evidence that what they're doing is actually working and providing an impact or return on investment. So here we've got a range of analytics, which range from fully automated to semi-automated. And again, you can choose to include all of them, some of them, or none of them. And if you do include them, you can have them scrolling in one widget, we call it, or split out like I've done here. So the first suite of metrics speak to visibility. So things like coverage over time, the spread of domain authority across all of your coverage, where your coverage has been shared to, if your coverage has been shared to Facebook, which usually happens for online consumer coverage, how are people reacting to it once it's on Facebook? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they angry, etc.? And online coverage views and the source of those views. Also, just by adding in the name of your client or campaign or the initiative that you're promoting, you can track things like mentions. And also whether your client or the brand or whatever it is you're promoting was mentioned in the headline, top, middle, or bottom of coverage. So this could be done manually, but it's very time consuming. What this does is very quick, very simple, and again, shows that you're raising visibility for a brand. We're also introducing metrics around attention measurement, so we can track how many hours of attention your online coverage earned, And in a new metric, which is designed to replace AV with something more credible, how much would it cost to purchase ads that achieve the same amount of attention for your coverage? Of course, the important thing here is that the cost for earned media is always zero by definition. We've got lots more information on that in our support center. So if you're interested, happy to discuss that further. Now moving on to messaging. So obviously key messaging is so important. It really is the core of PR, but it's very time consuming. And also it's not impartial when you do key message analysis yourself. So here's how this works. You type in your key message, and using AI, we detect when even the essence of that key message comes across. So we know that key messages do not appear verbatim. So our system understands what you're trying to say and accurately detects those across coverage. You can put one key message in, 2, 3, up to 5. And you can do the same thing with also spokesperson quotes in a separate chart as well. Again, what you're trying to show here is that we have successfully communicated the things that we needed to communicate. The next set speaks to the audience's impression of your brand and their reaction to it. So the first one is sentiment, which we're all familiar with, but sentiment's usually done on an article level, which means if the article's negative, but your client or your brand's name is mentioned positively, the sentiment doesn't really work because the sentiment will be negative. Here, again, we use some AI to understand what are you trying to promote, what's the brand you're trying to promote, and based on that, we give you accurate sentiment around that specific brand. And the next is perception analysis, which is one of our most popular analytics. Doing reputation analysis is not really feasible for most PR campaigns because we lack the budget or time to do surveys or focus groups. What this does is essentially our system absorbs all of your online coverage. It puts itself in the position of an average reader. It doesn't know what your campaign objectives are. It says, based purely on the coverage that you've added to this report and nothing else online, how would the average reader kind of perceive your brand? So here we've got breathable, comfortable, natural, hypoallergenic for these woolen bedding products. Now these terms may not even appear in the coverage. You don't put them in, we don't put them in. This is a genuine perception analysis chart, very popular for pitches, but also for reporting. And then finally, thinking about how can we make a lasting impact beyond the lifetime of coverage. We're able to track backlinks back to your website, even if they go through a third party or affiliate. And also we've created this brand recall score based on things like the number of times your brand is mentioned, how prominently it's mentioned, and the strength of sentiment to give you an overall idea of how memorable your brand will be based on the coverage that you've added. So again, all of that's optional, but it gives PRs a lot of power to prove that what they're doing is making an impact. And then a final couple of things. So you can add social media, and that includes X, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Simply paste in the links. The system will automatically grab the posts, fetch metrics including followers, reactions, plays or views where possible. You also have the option to total them up or break it down by platform. And also you can visualize those in charts, where your view's coming from, which platforms do your posts appear on, and which are giving you the most reach, etc. You can also add print coverage in the form of PDFs or images, like so. And finally, you can do pretty much anything else, including saying, what have we learned, what's in the pipeline, etc. But the idea with these reports is that stakeholders, regardless of their knowledge levels of PR, can get really good sense of the work you've done, the results you've produced, and why it matters in a couple of minutes. They can absorb these on any device, and there are lots of other export formats that we'll talk about in a moment. Right, let's now move on to how the platform works. So obviously there is a control panel in which you have all of your reports saved, but there's two concepts to be aware of: brands and pages. So if you're an agency, think of a brand as a client, or if you're in-house, a brand could be the name of your brand or your corporate or a different campaign. This is the part of the tool when you create a new brand where you control the logo, the colors, the background image, which makes a huge difference. There's thousands of fonts to choose from, and also you can control the colors and details for these. We call them widgets, for example. You don't need any design expertise, but this is what makes your page really slick, visual and professional. You can have as many brands as you like. And when it comes to building a report itself, I'm going to skip here to the actual report builder. So this is a bit of a sandbox we can play around with. I'm just going to introduce you to the key elements of the report builder. So here we have a toolbar in which you can see all the different types of content you can add to a report. So here's how it works. Let's say I want to add an introduction or an overview or a summary of our activity. That would all be text. So I'm going to drag this off the toolbar and onto the report. I'm going to add my copy, like so. Now obviously I can put images in here, I can format it as you'd expect. Click save, and here's how you control the layout. You simply drag and drop. You can resize. And importantly, you can see here it says section header. Let's pop one of those in. This is how we can completely control the structure and layout of our reports. You don't need any design expertise or technical expertise whatsoever. Just from knowing the drag and drop, you've got complete control over layouts, as mentioned. I'm going to show you a couple of key widgets now, starting with the question of how you add online coverage. So here's how it works. You can see here it says online coverage. You would drag that onto the page. Now we've already done that here, as you can see. And here's how we got this coverage into this widget. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to click paste URLs. And then I'm simply going to paste in the links again from a spreadsheet, from your media monitoring service. These are the clean, accurate links. And when I click submit, that's what generates these snapshots. And once again, you've got the article publication, the headline, the date, a summary, and an image. And just FYI, all of this is completely editable. It pulls through different images, although you can always add your own. And indeed, you can change the copy as well, add captions, and there's lots more options here. But essentially, you paste the links in, you click save, and just from that, we fetch the coverage and all of those publication, coverage, and social engagement metrics we talked about before. Social posts work in exactly the same way. All you do is you grab the links, pop it into a box, and click save. Now, in terms of reporting and analytics, a couple of things to be aware of. So firstly, you can see evaluation here. This is where all the charts and graphs live. As you can see, it's optional. So let's drag this on. Now here we simply have a list of all of the charts and graphs that we might want to add to a page. You tick the ones you want. So some of them are completely automated. Some of them, like mentions and sentiment, prominence, etc., will ask you for what's called brand keywords. Essentially, mentions of what, sentiment of what. So this is where we add the name of our client or our brand, the specific entity that you want to analyze. You type it in this box. Here's ones we created earlier. That's it. It will ask if you want to apply that to all of the analytics in the page, and you say yes. And it will go off to work, as you can see. Simple as that. And once you've done that, you've got lots of options for metrics as well. So all of our clients use these summary metrics, and you've got lots of options. You've got the totals across the whole page. You've got all of the online metrics we've gone through, including all of those advanced analytics we just mentioned. This is where the attention metrics live as well, but also all of our social and print metrics. If we'd added print, would be here too. But crucially, you can also build your own, as you can see here. We've got some inspirational examples here. But to build your own KPI, all you do is construct it yourself. So maybe we've had 100 attendees of our media event. I want a nice icon to bring that to life. There's one here, although you can search through thousands. I'm going to make that a nice different color. Now you can have as many of these widgets as you like, so you can have them in different sections, etc. But as you can see, the principle is drag, drop, add the content. Just before we talk about how you share these pages, which is the final point, I just want to show you how simple the workflow is. Here's how it works. So as a reminder, the first thing you do is you create your brands. That's where you do the branding, the logo, and the color scheme. Simple but important. Next, you click create new page. Now, I started from an existing page. As you can see here, we have lots of example layouts that you can choose from. These are like starting structures that you can easily drag, drop, and rearrange as needed. So that's a big time saver. Once you've done your first report, as we had before, for example, this one, let's say you're ready for the July report. All you're going to do now is click duplicate, actually I want to keep the same structure, but I want to add new content. So it will clone the layout, as you can see here. And all we need to do, update the header and add our content for that month, which leaves the final point, which is how do you share these reports? So there's lots of options to share. You switch sharing on and that will refresh the metrics. You can share by a secure link. You can download a printable PDF, which looks like this. Nice cover page, table of contents, and then all of the information, including sections if you have them too, as you can see here. You can also download a fully editable PowerPoint version. You can export a spreadsheet which has every single piece of coverage and every social post with granular metrics and evaluation. And as you can see here, you can actually embed content in the body of an email. You simply copy it, go into your email, whether that's Outlook or Gmail, and click paste, like so. So as you can see, as we mentioned at the beginning, it's a simple, streamlined way to create these visually compelling, content-rich reports that can be exported in a range of formats and absorbed in a couple of minutes to make sure that everyone in the chain understands what you're doing and how impactful it is. So if you have any questions or would like to explore further, would love to hear from you. Just get in contact with us at hello@release.com. Hope that was helpful. Have a great day and see you later.